I've been tagged again! Hello tarantula lovers, I'm Alex and you're watching Tarantula Haven. Yes, I've been tagged again. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you can check the link up here for the first Tarantula tag. And this was started in the YouTubers Facebook community for tarantula YouTubers. And I believe this particular tarantula tag was started by Dave from Eerie Arachnids. And I'll post a link to his channel below in the description. And there are, I think, 11 questions on this tarantula tag, and a 12th, of course, because the person who tags you has to ask you a question. They pass one along to you. So a total of 12 questions on this one, and I believe these questions are supposed to be a little bit more thought-provoking, so let's go ahead and get on into it. Question number 1. If you could have only one genus of tarantula, what would it be? I had to think about this one quite a bit because there's several different genus that contain lots of species that I really like. I really struggled between this one and maybe the Poecilotheria genus because they contain some of my favorite tarantulas, but I think I would have to go with Brachypelma. And the reason I like Brachypelma, or I would choose Brachypelma, is because they kind of contain everything that I like in a tarantula. Number one is that they are colorful. I know they contain mostly reds and yellows and so on, but you know, you have your blacks and your reds and just all these different colors that come in that particular genus. Another thing that I like is that they are fairly large, but not extremely large, but not extremely small either. So they're a good sized tarantula, which is what I like as well. And a lot of your more docile species are in the Brachypelma species, so, or genus, should I say. So, you know, I like that. I like that they're docile. Now, yeah, their hair flickers and all that, but for the most part, they're, you know, not anything that is going to be harmful to you or anything that they're going to respond too defensively towards you. So I really like the Brachypelma genus. Another reason why I like the Brachypelma genus, and this might seem like a silly thing, but most of the Brachypelma genus comes from Mexico, some in Central America. And I am Mexican American. My parents were born and raised in Mexico and immigrated to the United States. So, you know, there's a little bit of a sense of pride that Mexico produces so many wonderful species of that genus. I know it's a silly thing, but I think that's pretty cool. Question number 2. What advice would you give to a new tarantula keeper? I think everybody's pretty much answered this one the same way. Do your research. Do research before you dive into a tarantula. I know sometimes you might be able to, you might do an impulse buy, which is what I did when I first started out. But do your homework. Find out about that species as soon as you can. You know, find out as much as you can about how to keep it, how to take care of it, and so on. Back when I started, there wasn't as much information as there is now. Nowadays, you can look up YouTube and you can find out so much info on just about any species that's out there in the pet trade. So yeah, definitely do your research. Don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of these YouTubers, a lot of people that run websites and so on about tarantulas are more than willing to pass on information and let you know exactly what you need to know to keep that species alive and to keep it healthy and you know, have a wonderful pet. So yeah, definitely do your homework. Question number 3. What is a positive change in you that is related to the tarantula hobby? I started making YouTube videos. I think that's a positive thing. It's helped me to I guess, ask questions and talk to people more, and to open up a little bit more toward people. I've mentioned before that I've always been a little bit socially awkward. I find it difficult to just approach people and talk to people and things like that. So this has kind of opened me up a little bit more in doing that. And not only that, but it's also helped me to make connections. And I think it's important to make connections in this hobby with other people that are also involved in this hobby, so that you can exchange information. But if you get addicted like I have and eventually want to pursue breeding tarantulas and so on, it's also good to have connections so that you could possibly arrange trades with people, or maybe even buy and sell tarantulas, especially if you're needing a male or you're needing a female or something to that effect. Question number 4 is a two-parter. Part 1 is, what do I regret bringing into my collection? And the second part of that is, what do I regret not getting when I had the opportunity? So first of all, what do I regret bringing into my collection? Nothing. Everything that I've gotten is great. I might want to say my HMAC, but that's the one that introduced me to Old World, and I have a special place in my heart for her, and she gets my heart going. But yeah, she's wonderful. I love watching her. I love watching her, how she behaves and so on. And it seems as she's getting bigger, she's getting a little bit more mellow. So I never let my guard down with her, but I still love her. So I really don't regret any of my tarantulas that I've brought into my collection. And what do I regret not getting when I had the opportunity? I regret not getting some OBTs that were actually relatively cheap that I saw at a reptile show a few years ago. This was before I had gotten into Old World, so I was kind of afraid of getting into Old World. People have told me that they're aggressive, that they're highly venomous, which they are, but I didn't know what to expect, so I kind of had a fear of going in that direction. So I really only stuck to New World. Maybe it was a good thing because my kids were younger then. They were small. Now they're all adults. But back then, I would have hated for something to have happened, if I did have Old World. So I kind of like that I did get into Old World when I did, but that would have kind of kicked it off a lot sooner for me. So I regret not getting those OBTs all that time ago. Another reason why is because to this very day, I still don't have any OBTs. I want one eventually, and I want some eventually, and I'll probably get them, but I've held off. I don't get them because they're fairly common. I see them just about every single time I go to a reptile show and I look at the arachnids, and I always end up going in a different direction because there's something that I want to add to my collection that is not as common and not as frequently available, so I keep passing them up. So I still don't have any OBTs to this very day. Question number 5 is another two-parter. Not fair, Dave. You're throwing in extra questions here in the guise of one question. What is my favorite aspect of the hobby, and what is my least favorite aspect of the hobby? My favorite aspect of the hobby is learning. I love the tarantulas that I have. I love learning about them. If I have a tarantula in mind that I want to get, I learn. I go out there and I research and I learn as much about it. And I am learning so much. There's a lot that I did not know about the tarantula hobby, about tarantulas in general. And I am just constantly finding something, almost every day, something new that I'm learning about tarantula keeping. Whether it's breeding, whether it's about different species. I've recently started learning about morphs, different color morphs that they come in because of regions and so on. So, my world is just opening up. And I think one of the coolest things about the tarantula hobby is that there are still species that are being discovered right now, and it's constantly growing. And the species that we've already discovered, some of them have not been fully researched yet, and they're still finding out new stuff about them. And names are even changing in the scientific names. They're changing because they're finding out that this particular tarantula does not belong in this genus or species and so on, and then they change them around. So yeah, it's constantly changing right now. So I think it's still young, and we're still finding out a lot of stuff. So that's part of the reason, or one of the favorite aspects of the hobby for me. So what is my least favorite aspect of the hobby? I would have to say it's the elitists, the people that want to hold you to a certain standard, and they want to impose their standards upon you. And what I'm talking about here is, people that say that you should never handle your tarantulas, or they should only be kept under these conditions, and don't use don't use pet trade names, use only scientific names, and things like that. Those hoarders of information that they don't want to share with anybody except for people within their circle. Those are the things, that's the least favorite aspect of this hobby. I'm not a scientist. It's not something where I understand that tarantulas are to be observed, and you keep them in a container or an enclosure, and you observe them, you feed them, you take care of them. But I also understand that sometimes, the urge to hold one just strikes you. Personally, I hold New World. I don't hold them all the time. I hold them very infrequently, but I've seen people that handle all their tarantulas, Old World or New World, and do so without any real stress to the animal. Let's face it, if an animal goes without stress in nature, then it's led a very lucky life. A little bit of stress might be good for it. Also, as far as scientific names are concerned, yes, I believe in scientific names because there's research behind that, and scientists have named them that for a particular reason. That is a very valid point, that you should use scientific names if you're going to get into the hobby. But I also understand that we are consumers of the pet trade, and we buy in the pet trade. Yeah, so there are a lot of common names out there, and some people sell only by common names. So I use both. Whenever you see me show a tarantula on my videos, I'll give you the scientific name, and I'll give you the common name, so that you have an understanding. And it's also part of the learning process, because when I was first learning, I only knew common names. But then I started seeing, this is Brachypelma hamori, and it's the Mexican red knee. So I started associating the two. So now whenever I see it, I always think scientific name, but that common name is already there. It's there along with it. So both names pop up in my brain. I don't know how yours works, but that's how it works for me. So I tend to associate both names with the tarantula now that I'm in the hobby and I've gotten deep into it. And as far as sharing information, that's why I do this. I'm sharing my experiences with you. I learn from other people. I am showing you what my experiences are so that other people can learn from me. Some people might find me more entertaining than they find someone else, so they might come to my channel for information instead of that other person, and so on. So it helps that we have a variety of different personalities out there giving us the same information, because we all learn differently and we all like something different. So that's exactly how I am. I'll go out there and I'll research and I'll listen, and there might be someone who I find boring and I can't listen to them, so I'll go find the same information somewhere else. Question number 6. If I could do a collaboration with another YouTuber, who would I choose and why? I'm really not opposed to doing a collaboration with anyone. I kind of like everybody who I've been interacting with on the Facebook YouTubers community. And I think it would be pretty cool, although I still don't know exactly what I'm doing as far as like how I would do a collaboration. I know that Tom Moran of Tom's Big Spiders and Mike of Casey's Tarantulas have done a collaboration, and I still don't understand how they get their video from one person to the other and then piece it all together. I'll have to learn that. But yeah, I'm not opposed to doing a collaboration with anyone. I know Tom Moran of Tom's Big Spiders has hinted at doing a collaboration with me. He may have just been saying that, but you never know. Casey's Tarantulas, I'd love to do one with him because he's kind of silly with his Tarantula, and I think that would be fun to do something with him. and maybe Sam of Bug Realms. I like Sam. He's a funny guy. I know he is on Facebook because I've been interacting with him quite a bit, and I like his style. I like that, how he is. So I wouldn't be opposed to doing a collaboration with Sam of Bug Realms. Question number 7. How do I feel about holding tarantulas? I think I kind of partially answered that one on question 5. I'm not opposed to handling tarantulas. I will do the responsible thing and not encourage people to handle their tarantulas. They don't get anything from it. There's no benefit. There's only risk. You risk being bitten by your tarantula, whether it be New World or Old World. And there's risk to the animal because it could potentially get injured from a drop or a fall, or, running off somewhere and anything like that. So there's no real benefit to the tarantula by being handled. It doesn't get anything from it. Now, as far as handling, there are occasions when I do handle my New World tarantulas, and not all of them, only some of them. I might be cleaning an enclosure, I might be observing it, and have the lid off, and the tarantula might feel adventurous and decide it wants to climb up to the top of the enclosure, and I just might stick my hand out and let it walk onto my hand. Sometimes they kind of get taken aback from that, and they'll turn around and go right back down. But there are times when they'll just climb right out on my hand, and I enjoy the handling. I don't know what it is, but with any pet, when you handle your pet, there's kind of a little sense of bonding that goes on there, not necessarily on the tarantula's part, but on your part. And, I enjoy when my tarantula wants to walk around on my hand and I get to handle it for a little bit. And it's never for a long period of time. I always put it right back, and, it's always an enjoyable thing. Now, I do see people all the time that handle their Old World tarantulas. I happen to subscribe or follow a person on Instagram who is a very young girl, and she's quite adventurous, and she always handles her Old World tarantulas. There's always pictures of her handling pokies and so on. And I wish I had that kind of nerve. I wish that I could do it because she makes it look so easy, but I know that I am not prepared for that, and I don't know how I would go about doing that safely. And I know, I'm aware of my mortality. Being 50 years old, I know what it's going to do to me, and I don't know if I want to go through that at my age. Now, young people, there's a certain sense of they feel invulnerable, so they take risks, and they're a little bit more adventurous, and that's okay. If you can handle it, then by all means, as long as you do it safely. But I highly discourage it, because that trip to the hospital is probably not going to be worth it if you get bitten and you have to go through a whole lot of agony and pain from that. Question number 8. What was my biggest mistake in the hobby so far? I think this was the question that was asked of me on the first Tarantula Tag, on the personal question that you asked to the person that you're passing it off to. And so I think I've already answered this. And my biggest mistake would be basically underestimating Old World tarantulas, especially the arboreals. I had a circumstance that happened with my HMAC, and it was extremely quick, and I was not prepared for it. It was a shock to me how fast these tarantulas can be. So if you think that your reaction speed is faster than a tarantula's, you are sadly mistaken. And it's a learning experience when you get into New World, especially the arboreals, and you witness how fast they can be. So you do have to be careful. You do have to kind of make sure that you're prepared with catch cups and anything else that you need to make sure that you do a rehousing as safely as possible, or any interaction that you're having with that tarantula for whatever reason. So yeah, that would probably be my biggest mistake, was to underestimate the speed of the Old World tarantulas. Question number 9. What are my goals for my channel? Well, I guess I'd just like to continue sharing my experiences with my tarantulas, and if I get any new tarantulas and so on. I'm getting kind of close to my saturation point, so I don't know that I'll be adding too much more to my collection, but I started out with mostly slings, so they've got a lot of growing to do, so I think I've got plenty of material to choose from as these things grow and go through their stages and so on. So yeah, I'm thinking about, tapering off on that. But yeah, I just enjoy making YouTube videos, sharing my experiences, sharing any information that I learned that is useful to someone else. So I'd like to keep doing more of that. I recently got monetized, so you're starting to see ads on my YouTube channel, and that's the good thing, to earn some money. It does take time to make these videos. I do spend hours editing, so the shooting part is the easy part, it's the quick part. That's my bird. But the editing takes a long time, especially if you add things here and there, to make it a little bit more entertaining. And that's part of it. I want to educate, but I want to entertain, which is something in the teaching world that we call edutainment, right? So I'm into edutainment. I want to entertain you, but I also want to teach you something when I do my videos. And that's kind of my goal for this. This is my plan. It helps a little bit to get paid, but I don't anticipate getting tons of money from YouTube, especially only with 1,500 subscribers or so. Maybe it'll grow, maybe it won't, but you never know. I just like doing what I'm doing. Question number 10 is not really a question, but it asks to give 3 shout outs to other YouTube channels. So first shout out I'd like to give would be to Carolina's Tarantulas. She's pretty interesting. She's from Sweden, and I kind of like her style. I like her tarantulas. She gives you a little bit of an insight as to how she keeps them, and when she does her enclosure changes and so on. She likes to decorate their enclosures, and I love hearing her talk. I love accents from different countries, so to hear her talk is real interesting because she has that Swedish accent, and but she does do her videos in English, so that's it's a cool thing to hear it in my language, but with her accent. So yeah, she's a pretty interesting YouTuber. You should check her out. Another one I'd like to give a shout out to, and that is Spidey V, and he's the one that handed this off to me. He's a pretty cool guy. He's from South Africa, and it's neat to see his point of view and his aspect of the tarantula hobby in South Africa. I know that there are restrictions in different parts of the world as far as what you can keep and what you can't keep. And I do believe that they are not allowed to keep baboon species there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're protected in Africa. So he has some of the species that are common around here, but I don't think he's into old world yet. But he's a pretty cool guy. I'd recommend checking out his channel. Another shout out I'd like to give is to Bug Realms. Sam from Bug Realms, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's a real funny guy on Facebook, I know that. But I like his style, and he knows quite a bit about insects. He helped me out with my mantids, which I have to do an update video on that. But yeah, he knows a lot about how to keep all these different types of insects. I know he keeps mantids, I know he keeps phasmids, and he also keeps tarantulas. So pretty interesting stuff. Definitely go check him out. Number 11 asks me to show off an enclosure that I have made or bought. This is an enclosure that I made out of a lantern. And so yeah, I got this lantern from Walmart, and it opens up in the front there, and it even lights up. I don't know if you can see that. So I was pretty proud of it. I thought it was a pretty cool thing. I originally ended up putting a Poecilotheria subfusca in there, and I'll put a link to that up there so that you can see that. But it ended up going straight to the top and hanging out there. So it made it a little bit ineffective for me as far as feeding and things like that were concerned. So I took it out of there. I'm going to do a rehouse, and I'm going to utilize this, but I'm probably going to put a green bottle blue in here because they tend to stay toward the middle and the bottom. And as far as feeding is concerned, it does have gaps along the door here. So any roaches that escape would easily slip out there. So with the Sophiuska hanging out at the top, it's kind of hard to feed it up there and to make sure that it held on to its prey, and that the roaches didn't sneak out of there. So I know with a GBB, it's going to be down here. It's going to be all webbed up. So if I put a roach in there, it'll get it and I'll be able to observe it. And if it doesn't, I can just take it right out so we don't have any escapes. Question number 12 is the question that is asked of me by the person who handed it off to me, and that was Spidey V. And his question to me is, he knows that I'm a teacher, so if I had the opportunity to become an arachnologist or an entomologist, would I leave teaching? Why or why not? And that's kind of a tough question. I love teaching. I love the students. The students are always great. But right now, politics in teaching has gotten really bad. So I think that if I had the opportunity to leave teaching for, say, becoming an arachnologist, I have a hard time saying that, I think I would jump on that. I would love to do something like that. Ironically, I just recently went back to the Museum of Natural History in Gainesville and went back to the butterfly garden. And I got to observe the entomologists there that were taking DNA samples of butterflies and categorizing them and labeling them and just doing all kinds of stuff with butterfly species. And I was thinking to myself, they should have an arachnology department there. That would be pretty cool. I would love to do something like that. So yeah, if the opportunity presented itself that I could go into that field and it could pay my bills, I would love to do something like that. Especially maybe even going out in the field and studying behaviors in wild or studying new species and so on. I'd have to lose some weight first, but that would be great. I would live for something like that. So yeah, I would definitely take the opportunity to leave teaching to go into a career field like that. So we've come to the part where I hand this off to another YouTuber, and I have to choose. The rules are that I have to choose someone not from the States. Since I'm from the United States, I have to choose someone overseas. So the person that I'm choosing is from Australia, and that is WhenTonight. This young man is awesome in front of the camera. He's so comfortable in front of the camera. He's just a natural. And he has recently started, but he's growing by leaps and bounds. I love watching him. I love listening to him. He talks like Steve Irwin. He reminds me of a young Steve Irwin, which is pretty cool. I foresee great things from him because he seems to be very passionate about his animals. He keeps tarantulas and he keeps centipedes, and he's even got some Sydney funnel webs. So yeah, some scary Australian stuff. So yeah, definitely check out WhenTonight. His dad seems to be very supportive of him. I think his dad is his videographer and probably puts it all together for him. So he's got a lot of good support there. But my question to you, Winton, is I know that Australia is very restrictive with their animals. They are not allowed to export anything or import anything, bring in anything new. So I know you're limited to what you can have as far as arachnid species in Australia. Do you foresee yourself in the future either traveling abroad or living somewhere else so that you can keep more tarantula species? So that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this tarantula tag. Winton, you're up. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you want to help support this channel, I do have a Redbubble store where I sell Tarantula Haven merchandise. I'll post a link to that below. Until next time, keep loving them tarantulas.